everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at some leading economic indicators that are signaling the fact that we are headed into a recession. We are seeing consumers' confidence being all-time low, and also we're seeing consumer savings being wiped out as of lately. There's no surprise that we have been having an inflation for the last 50 years, and it's only getting worse as the dollar is devaluating. And people are basically not able to afford the same things they were able to afford even a year ago. And that's not only impacting their ability to buy goods and services, but that along housing affordability. We're definitely seeing a major decrease on housing affordability. And how is that going to affect the real estate market? We can only predict that that's going to be having an adverse impact on the real estate market. So let's take a look at these economic indicators and figure out where we're at.
Are you tired of the city life? In recent years, in the wake of some global events, many Americans have found themselves wanting to relocate in search for a new frontier away from the city life, the homelessness, crowded areas, high crime, and chaos. For many, they wish to capitalize on the freedom that remote work provides. For some, finding affordable housing, looking for rural locations to save money. The move toward rural America is still going. The National Association of Realtors still support this trend. The reason? People are looking for better quality of life, housing affordability, safety, more space, less pollution, connecting with nature, and more freedom. In this channel, we analyze real estate market trends and examine all the different areas throughout the U.S. where opportunities are for those who are looking to get out of the cities and start a new life for them and their families. If you're looking to relocate anywhere in the U.S., please contact me to schedule a Zoom consultation. I have been a real estate broker for almost 2 decades with experience in relocation strategies and would be happy to assist you in your particular situation.
Okay, the first leading indicator by the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis economic data is the real-time SAM's Rural Recession indicator. This indicator basically shows that it signals that the start of a recession happens when the 3-month moving average of national unemployment rate rises by 0.5 percentage point or more relatively to the minimum of the 3 months averages from the previous 12 months. So that we have seen, for example, here that the gray areas marked the recession time. So we had one in 2020 because of the pandemic. We had one in 20 around 2008. So we see the recession there marked by the rise of unemployment. We see one in the early 2000, and we see the unemployment rate there. We see here in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, all the way back to the 60s. So it has been this is a historical data that proves the fact that anytime that there is an increase in unemployment, is led by a recession. So I want you to listen to Claudia Somm. She's the one who came up with this rural recession indicator on a recent interview that she had about the recession outlook.
Us here. As I just described, it is a recession indicator. So help me and our audience out here. On a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being as far as possible from a recession and 10 being absolute recession territory, where would you say we stand today?
If I were to just look at the rule, so this is a pattern that's held historically, and it's been very reliable. So the way you would interpret this rule normally is we are probably about 3 months into a recession. Now, is there anything about the world right now that is normal? No. And so the Somm rule and many other indicators we've had of, say, recessions, like 2/4 of GDP declines. We had that in 2022. We had no recession, right? Like, we really have to think about the particular context for now. So do I think we are in a recession right now? No. Do I think that the increases in the unemployment rate and the softening in the labor market is worrisome and we could end up in a recession in say 3 months, 6 months? Yes, I am very concerned about that.
Okay, so we have that. We have that indicator. The next one I want to bring to your attention is the 10-year Treasury constant maturity minus a 3-month Treasury constant maturity graph, which is also known as the yield curve. And they say anytime it goes below this line, it's we have an inversion on the curve, on the yield curve. And that started basically in 2022. So anytime they say we have that, we have a recession. So we're like it happened, well, we can take a look here in the early 2020s. Well, we know that was during the pandemic, but that has been historically a good indicator that we are headed into a recession. Let's also take a look at the housing affordability index for the state of California. We know that we have housing affordability all throughout the United States, but I want to focus in California right now because we have, of course, the most expensive homes, single family residences in the area, in the States. So in order to buy a home in California, a medium home price, you need a minimum qualifying income of $236,800. So we see certain areas like Alameda County in the San Francisco Bay Area, you need $365,200 in order to qualify. But of course, you need to have good credit, and you also need to have savings, and you also need to have your debt to income ratio has to be right. And a lot of people don't have that ratio right because they are racking on credit card debt. So we can take a look here at some of the counties where you have to have the highest income anywhere in the nation in order to buy your medium home price in the area. So San Mateo County, $574,800. So you can then go into other areas, and of course, it's quite a bit lower, typically your rural areas, but anywhere in the Bay Area or Southern California, but particularly in the Bay Area, we see that the minimum qualifying income is incredibly high. No wonder why the housing affordability index is so low, and no wonder why we are starting to see the real estate market affected as of lately. So housing affordability reached the lowest since 2007. We know we had a recession in 2008. This is the index here. So we are at the lowest point we have been since 2008. This is another interesting graph, is the peak versus current of housing affordability. So the blue represents the housing affordability now, and the yellow represents the housing affordability back in 2012. So you can see the difference there. Talk about inflation. We have had 320% change since 2012, 320% decline on housing affordability, and particularly in all these areas that we mentioned. The minimum annual income required has increased since 2023, the second quarter, a year to date, by $28,000. So you need $28,000 more this year than you did last year in order to buy a medium price home. The same here, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance have increased by 320%. A lot of that has to do with interest rates that have increased, and also homeowners insurance that have been through the roof. We see the same, how that has changed since the last, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, how it has increased by at least 9% in the US, but of course, 13.6% in California. And the housing affordability in California by county, there's no surprise. Well, we see all these counties here are the one that has the least affordability versus these counties over here have the most affordability, but still is lower than the US, more than the US. So let's take a look at the next trends. So the Fed's favorite inflation indicator unexpectedly misses as savings rates plunges to near record low. Of course, there's no surprise that savings rates are plunging, given the fact that people's savings are becoming wiped out from the hidden tax, which is inflation. And we know that the numbers that were shown for inflation are not necessarily the real inflation that's taking place, even though they're saying inflation is going down, and that's why they are expanding the money supply once again. But this article states that the broadly weak trend of U.S. macro data was jolted yesterday by the hotter than expected GDP print, hilariously driven by a surge in personal consumption at the same time as the Dollar General announced the time of death of the U.S. consumer, which prompted a hawkish shift in rate cut expectations. However, this morning, the Doves get another chance for some bad news. Disinflation to support their "we must cut in September" narrative unveiled by Powell himself last week during Jackson Hole when the Fed's favorite inflation indicator, core PCE, came in line with expectations and even missed estimates on a core YOY basis, stating this headline. So basically, all this is saying is that consumers' savings is now wiped out, and yet inflation refuses to drop materially. So yes, the Fed will cut, and then we can finally unleash the second coming of the Arthur Burns in hyperinflation Fed. So basically, what we are headed for, according to this particular analysis, we're headed to hyperinflation, given the fact that they are cutting rates during a time when prices are at all-time highs and consumer savings and consumers' confidence is at an all-time low. So the result of that is that they are basically fueling the fire by cutting interest rates, and that's going to have an immediate effect on inflation and savings, and of course, confidence. So if you like this video and you think it's useful, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to share with your friends, and hope to have you back next time. Thank you.